Folks, we're finding out why The Acolyte got no season 2 because, well, you all know it's true. Disney doesn't care about ratings. They'll put bad stuff out there over and over again. But in this case, maybe it's another indication that the sequel trilogy truly is being phased out of Disney canon. From comicbook.com, we've got this from Chris Agar, creator of Star Wars canceled series, reveals season 2 plans. The Acolyte premiered in 2024. It was one of the more fascinating, well, that's an F word that you could apply to it that I wouldn't, Star Wars projects to be released under Disney, telling a story set around 100 years before the events of The Phantom Menace. The show marked the first time Lucasfilm explored the High Republic era on screen, and dare I say, folks, it might be the last time indeed. The Acolyte had the potential to pave a new way forward for the franchise, following an entirely new cast of characters while still finding room for connections that made sense, like Yoda and Plagueis. Sadly, it wasn't meant to be. The Acolyte was canceled after just one season, but showrunner Leslie Headland remains optimistic it could return at some point. All of this is to say, audiences hate it, nobody wants to watch it. The most views it got was from people rubbernecking to see how bad it could be, and thus it's gone. But speaking with Empire, Leslie Headland, the former personal assistant to one Harvey Weinstein, shared that she would love to make season 2. Quote, I would still want to do it, absolutely. As more people discover it, I think people may want to see some form of the story come back. She also shed light on the material season 2 would have tackled, including the stranger's connections to Venestra Rua, I thought her name was Darth Nepotism, and Darth Plagueis, the Watcher, as well as other sequel established things. Whoa. As well as other sequel established things. It seems like The Acolyte season 2 was designed to tie into the sequel trilogy. Now, I can't imagine a better train wreck than The Acolyte and the sequel trilogy coming together. And really and truly now, I want this. I want this so badly, I'm going to start a petition myself. We need Acolyte season 2 with sequel trilogy tie-ins. We need this, Disney. Please. I'm begging you. I could use another garage. Elsewhere in the interview, Headland recalled reactions she's heard from fans. This is not really true. These are people that she said she went out to dinner with. Quote, I speak with people who are really big fans and were disappointed in the cancellation. I went to a play last night and somebody was like, I just have to tell you that I loved it. Which, how often do you go to something and people come up to you and say, I hate what you do? It's not the typical human nature. The guy I saw last night loved the additional lore in the fight sequences. Another woman loved the allegory for a religious experience. Somebody else really loved the way the Jedi were portrayed. Everybody comes up to Leslie and says, we love the things you do. Her BFFs tell her the truth every single time. We've still got some articles out there pushing for this. Gizmodo, Jermaine Lucier. Hey, Dave Filoni. Leslie Headland is still down for The Acolyte season 2. You wanna? But I'm telling you, folks, they're not gonna. And the reason is, not only did The Acolyte destroy itself, not only was Leslie Headland sent off sailing, not only was this the final act of Kathleen Kennedy when they said enough is enough, the High Republic that it's based on is dead. And I can tell you that because we searched far and wide to find anything still happening with the High Republic. And what do we find? Star Wars News Net covered this in May, reviewing the High Republic Adventures Pathfinders #2. And if you look here, it's really hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. You see this 0 over here? Do you all know what that 0 is for? That 0 is for comments. It took everything I had to find an article that includes anything relevant to the High Republic. And when I did, I found an article that essentially has no interest whatsoever. Nobody's reading this stuff. Nobody cares. The Acolyte and the era that it's based on are completely dead. However, Kara, it seems to me that it's now obvious why Disney had to cancel this thing. The damage that was going to be done if they allowed it to metastasize and connect itself to the sequel trilogy, I think that they understood at some point they have to stop doing this. Every time they touch the sequel trilogy, another Star Wars fan walks away. So, Kara, do you think this is the reason that the Acolyte had to be stopped, and maybe why Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland had to be kicked to the curb by Lucasfilm?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm one of the people who didn't watch The Acolyte. I gave up.
Lucky you.
I gave up after Mando season 2. I got 2 episodes into Book of Boba Fett and noped out. Never watched Kenobi. I didn't watch what is it? Andor.
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 I didn't watch Andor. I have watched every Star Wars movie up until I watched the two. I watched The Force Awakens and whichever one was after that one in theaters. Well, I'd watched all of them. My first Star Wars movie in theaters was Force Awakens, and then the one after that,
Rogue One.
And then I just completely gave up. I was just bored out of my mind, and it completely went against what the original Star Wars were, in my opinion. And I'm sure a lot of people in this sphere will agree with that. And I didn't watch Star Wars because it was geared towards women. I watched it because it was entertaining and genuinely like appealing to everybody, whether you're a man or a woman or a kid or an adult, like everybody. It was appealing. Like I still remember having the VHS set that my parents had whenever I was little. So it's just one of those. I do think that Acolyte just needs to stay dead. It just needs to stay gone. The only people who will benefit from now, given I will say, the only people who will benefit from the Acolyte coming back will be the YouTubers.
Yeah.
The actual fans of Star Wars will not.
The Acolyte was an excellent case for all of us talking about something does not make it popular. That was an argument that was out there in the sphere, in the sphere to say that, oh, well, all of you talking about this is boosting it in the ratings. No, there was something interesting in maybe episode 3. I forget what it was. That was the Power of One, Power of Many episode. And I think they had, well, whatever, it doesn't matter what it was. It was what was going on in the show was interesting because all of us continued to talk about it. And then it took a nosedive in the ratings.
Well, I just want to say that as Kara was listing all the things she didn't watch, there's a small part of me that began to hate her with a passion that I have never felt before, as I remembered all those things that I did watch for this channel and for the purposes of reviewing it, and the terrible,
saved so many hours of my life,
pain that I have endured. Kara, I wish I had the fortune of you to not have suffered through some of this stuff. It's really bad.
Didn't, because I had people like you who would watch it, and I didn't have to deal with it.
That's a good.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
Oh boy, Chato, we're watching as they run from the sequel trilogy. It seems to me that's the reason they had to close this thing down, and I just wonder, Filoni was not associated with the Acolyte. He was there as an advisor, but this was really Leslie, and this was really Kathleen. They're both gone now, and I wonder if there's no reason Filoni would want to go back to this if Disney lets him have that kind of decision-making power, which there's no proof that he has that. He may be completely controlled at this point by Alan Bergman at a higher level of Disney. But Paul, would you recommend at this point for Star Wars to try to do everything they can to get away from that which destroyed them? Like, how would you advise them going forward? Should they retcon? Should they avoid? Should they just go somewhere else in the story? Like, what do you do if you have a formerly biggest franchise ever and it's in this state?
Well, there's my thoughts, and then there's I'm thinking of what their meetings would be like. They've blown through a ton of cash, right?
Amazing amounts.
I think it's finally affected them. With regards to the Acolyte, I believe the rumor is that all the witch stuff came from Filoni.
Right. His wife, who is a writer for Star Wars, was formerly in a coven.
Right. And wow, you know what? That's a tough question. To be quite honest, if I was Disney and I was really interested in bringing this back to life, I would sell it to another company and let them bring fresh talent on that kind of allegedly wipes the slate and bad taste clean of everything Disney has done. I don't know how Disney could resurrect it other than bringing some heroic individual that the pop culture audience trusts to resurrect it, like Lord and Miller. Let's say we found out that Disney goes back to Lord and Miller and says, "We apologize, we're sorry, we want you to resurrect this whole thing, and you can do whatever you want." I think there would be a certain amount of trust in them. But other than that, I would say, hey, let's sell it all on a fire sale.
So you're actually, we're on the exact same page, Paul. I've said they should send this off to a third party.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what they're doing with Starfighter. But Starfighter, of course, Sean Levy doing this and Ryan Gosling being brought in, that's a one-off. I think they're going to have to do this for years and years to come because of how poorly they have acquired talent or lack thereof at Lucasfilm. I've said this before, just because you're the Chicago Bulls, you can't win championships. It's Michael Jordan. They don't have any Michael Jordans. They don't have any Scottie Pippens. They don't even have Rodmans at Lucasfilm anymore. They've emptied the house of talent. So, Paul, have you ever been in that kind of an experience before in your dealings with entertainment where you just come into a team and you say, they want it, they don't got it, and there's no changing that until we change the talent?
Well, I've been in corporate situations where it was clear that everything they did wasn't working, mainly because the people who were doing the hiring of me didn't believe in anything that anybody that they had hired previously tried to do. And the key to making that work is to drag the hierarchy kicking and screaming into supporting the plan. That's the problem, is that a lot of people will hire change makers to change things, but the people who are making the decisions don't really give those individuals all the support they need to finish the job.
Right. Which also means they don't have the proper vision of the long term and what it is we're trying to achieve and whether or not it can be successful and what the resources are necessary to get there.
Yeah, and potentially This is what's happened to Amazon with regards to the show that you were just
Stargate.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, just to point out the history of this company, Lucasfilm, if you compare what Steven Spielberg and what George Lucas were doing, there was a singular vision. Yes, there was a collaboration underneath it. There were lots of visionaries underneath them, but there was a singular vision of what it would be. With this, there's a committee at the top. There's a producer with no taste, except for perhaps coffee, that is at the top and saying, I don't like this, go back and fix it. And we all know what that looks like when maybe we all don't know. There are people on this panel that know what that looks like when someone says, I don't like this, fix it. And they don't give you anything specific or actionable. They're not communicating on a vision level. They're communicating on a generally, change it again and I'll see if I like it. And that's how you get a $350 million Indiana Jones movie that gets beaten by Sound of Freedom. Even describing Dial of Destiny, the real insult to that film is no one is talking about that other than that happened kind of way. The Last Jedi was at least offensive in what it was doing in a way that we still go back to that and talk about what it was. I think Rian Johnson was given too much leeway, but it seems like it came from one vision. So in some way, yes, I'll say Last Jedi, in that it had a singular vision, was a better film than Dial of Destiny. But this entire organization of Lucasfilm is a copy of a copy of a copy. And that's just boring. The movie that we have up on screen right now is content in the most derisive way possible. It is a couple of episodes, maybe 3, of a TV show that they intentionally didn't move the needle in either direction story-wise so that people could skip it and not miss anything when they go back to watching the series, which they probably won't do.
Well, there's no more series to come, I don't believe. Nat, the reason we're talking about the Acolyte and the end of it, and it's so pathetic that they want to do a season 2, and is because Star Wars is so damaged right now. It boggles the mind that anybody would even still write an article unless it's truly clickbait. The fact that the #1 show on Disney Plus is The Mandalorian, or it was right before Bluey. The fact that this program managed to make 250 and it's done. Like, here's the deal. It's being cut from theaters. It's being removed from screens. It's going to trickle in money from the box office from here on out, but $400 million is gone. 350 is tough. At the domestic box office, it would be extraordinarily fortunate if it can top 200 million at the domestic. I mean, this is catastrophically bad, and we still have articles out there being written about, boy, we need an Acolyte season 2. Boy, we need that.
Well, I think they don't want to lose their way, raison d'etre, or their reason of being right now that they've made up for themselves, that nobody else wants and nobody else wants to watch. And of course, if you ask Leslie Headland if she wants to make another one, well, I would say, yeah, I want to make another one too, if it was giving me the money and the prestige, at least apparent prestige to herself of being involved with the Star Wars property. But I agree with Paul, but I also say, just Disney, stop touching it, stop doing anything to it, because at least in my mind, the only Star Wars that exists are the prequels and the sequels. Like nothing else in my mind, and I'm not super into it, but they're the only ones I've watched repeatedly, and then I kind of stopped caring once I saw that everybody else was complaining about it. So for a casual viewer, it's even less of an interest if you don't even want to follow the storylines that they're saying they want to put on screen, but then ruining those as well. And you're just listening to it passively, from you and from Nerdrotic, for example, that say don't even bother. Then like Kara said, like I've lost complete interest, and they could have captured some interest if Disney did the right moves. But at this point, I just say, let it be. Stop touching it.
We're still following, folks, the idea that Disney is going to branch off the sequel trilogy and let it exist in its own little place, its own little time, but make a new timeline. And I think that's the only way forward, is give the folks what they wanted for 30 years, which was Luke Skywalker as a Jedi Master. That's it. That's all that's left. I think the idea that you didn't give people what they had waited for 3 decades, probably not a great play. And it's time to give the people what they want. That's what the market wants. We're not here to tell you it's right or wrong. We're here to tell you that's what the market says. Disney, you can fight with them if you want to, but for our sakes, listen to me, Bob. Well, Bob, you're gone. Darn it. Josh, we need Acolyte Season 2 here. Truly. Paul needs it. I need it. Jonas needs it. Nat needs it. Kara's not going to watch it, but we need it. Please.
That was an enjoyable, horrible experience. The Acolyte, whereas what was the show with the witches?
Oh, Agatha, which was not so far off.
That was just horrible.
No, you're getting confused. We're not talking about the superhero lesbian witches. We're talking about the space fantasy lesbian witches.
Right. Completely, you know what? I get confused.
It's hard to keep your witches straight.